having boundaries, setting your own internal expectations around your purpose. What did you enjoy about those events, and how can you bring that back into your life? So it may look a little bit different, but being comfortable to set new traditions and just recognizing life looks different now, and that's okay. And it doesn't mean it's less than, but I think we also don't do a great job about talking about that.
Welcome to For the Health of It, Because You Can, where host Susan Robinson dives into the 8 categories of wellness with experts from various fields. We offer tips and information to help you thrive in all areas of individual wellness.
It's getting that time of year where you see Christmas decorations going up, holiday songs, everything is all about families and happiness and everything, but the holidays are just not the same for everyone. So today, my guest is Dedra Hansbro. She's also with the Department of Mental Health, and we're going to talk about the struggles that people actually do go through, maybe sometimes silently, suffering through the holidays. I know I had recently read an article in APA that talked about 89% of U.S. adults felt stressed at the holidays, and 41% said it's increased during that time than at other times. So I think there's some definite issues that people go through that just, we need to address it because we need to find some answers for what's going on. So as a licensed therapist, you're a licensed therapist. So
yep, under candidacy right now, getting all those hours in.
Yes. I say, yeah, it's like when I got my doctorate, it was ABD, so I hadn't done my dissertation yet,
right.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Holidays can be painful. I've experienced some of them, which I will talk about. But what do you feel are the main struggles people go through during this time? Why does it seem so hard for people during the holidays?
Right. Yeah. No. And thank you for having me. So I think the first thing is expectations. Like you said, the commercials, the decorations, the beloved Hallmark movies, right? Where everything is picture perfect. Add on social media, the expectation of the appearance that your family is loving and it's stable and we have wonderful gifts and everybody gets to mark off their list what they get. Even when we talk about Thanksgiving dinner, it's this loving dinner and everybody's having joyful conversation. And those are just the pictures of expectations. And we try to meet them. And it's when we don't that leads to loneliness, isolation, feelings of depression. And it's just recognizing those are just that. Those are pictures. Those are idealism at work. But it's hard as a society to feel comfortable with that. And I also think it's when we talk about grief and loss around the holidays, you kind of mentioned that. And sometimes loss is not the physical loss of an individual. It may be recognizing the loss and the inability to obtain the expectation we had. Loss in regards to that matriarch or patriarch that always set up those holiday events. And now our events look different. We're spread across the country. We rely on technology for communication. And while we have the ability to FaceTime and Zoom and do all these wonderful things, being able, and I call it being able to feel the vibe of others in the room, nothing can take that place. And that's hard sometimes. And grief, you grieve the loss. I made mention a few weeks ago, when my grandmother was still alive, she organized those things. Nobody does that anymore. We all kind of do our own things. And then it's like, well, who's going to take it on? Well, we're spread across the country. Who is going to take it on? But I do think it's having boundaries, setting your own internal expectations around your purpose. What did you enjoy about those events? And how can you bring that back into your life and even maybe your nuclear family? So it may look a little bit different, but being comfortable to set new traditions and just recognizing life looks different now. And it's okay. It doesn't have to look like it did 30 years ago with grandma. And it doesn't mean it's less than. But I think we also don't do a great job about talking about that. That when we hear the word it's different, there's an association of it's not good. So I hear a lot of people say, well, it's so different than when I was a kid. And that's okay. Do you enjoy it? Do you feel comfortable with it? Do you get time with your family? Is it meaningful? And I also think about those situations where maybe I've had clients, maybe they're the one in the family that is branching out and changing what might have been a cyclical, toxic family interaction, and then trying to interact with the family again is very hard and not necessarily healthy. So really having those boundaries and saying, I would love to eat with you. I know I can't eat with you in your home, but let's meet out. And we can still have that structured time together where they can feel safe leaving when appropriate and still having the healthy interactions with the family and getting that time. So I really think it's just, how does it need to look different to fit the purpose of the family now or the purpose of the friend group? When we think about other holiday interactions, the other hard part, and I've gone through this with my family too, millions of people have, when you have a loved one that's in the military and isn't home.
Yes.
And trying to feel that closeness and interaction and making sure that it's, it may not be a gift, but it may be a phone call and it may not be that day, but how is it going to look where everybody feels appreciated and heard, and the holiday, however that looks for your family or culture, is recognized, and just reestablishing that within your own terms and boundaries. So I think those are really the things of like, it's hard to silence the noise of societal expectation around holidays.
Right. Yeah, I think that, there's so much in the media and television that try to set the standard.
Yes.
And so when you're not there, again, it's just tough.
Yep.
One of the things, and this is speaking on a personal term, my daughter was a young teenager when I got divorced, and having to share the holidays.
Right.
That was probably the toughest. Even though I was with other family members, it was tough because she was not there.
Yeah. And I'm sure many of your traditions focused around her, right? So it's like wake up Christmas morning, like do those things, right? And even that first holiday, and I don't know if it's the first holiday is harder when that happens or the 10th, right? Because especially as they age, being able to, if it is a healthy co-parenting arrangement of saying, how can we do this in a healthy manner? So maybe it's just a quick phone call to be like, how was your morning? Did you get to open your gifts? Whatever that tradition looks like for your family, and being able to be a part of it, or having those things with your child prior to and absolutely when they come back home. So there's no kind of break in your own traditions, just doing them different.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. And a lot of people, like myself, have chosen to remain single, and or maybe there's somebody that's moved from out of state and can't afford to go back home.
Right.
What would you suggest would help you get through this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's even mentioned. I'll give you a plug for Thrive's website.
Okay.
So, support groups. Support groups are amazing. Sometimes it's hard when we move to a new area, finding where we can fit and who we relate to. And especially if we're out of the workforce, even in the workforce, you may not be totally enmeshed in the work group to know, like, what does everybody do around here for fun?
Right.
But such a wealth of resources online. And I speak to even those, because this is also a hard time of year for those in recovery. Because when depression and isolation sets in, even though we've been working on strong coping mechanisms, sometimes those old maladaptive behaviors creep back up. So being able to even access those online, and there literally is a worldwide availability 24/7 to hop in and out of meetings, engage with others, gratitude groups on Facebook, really structure. If you're in social media, start structuring that so it is positive. Is what my brain is ingesting positive and healthy for me? And is it within my value set? Because that's going to be healthier for you. So when you have those lonely, isolating moments, you can access those other people and just be able to say, today's a hard day. Other resources, 988, of course, because it's not just about crisis. You can literally call that number and say, today's crappy and I just need somebody. And being able to coordinate that care and say, okay, would you like to go talk to someone? What can we do for you? And be able to have those resources available, or just a listening ear.
Right. And I've also thought that volunteering, like for maybe a group,
absolutely,
the Red Andrews Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners, and maybe just not focusing on yourself, you know, as far as being alone, but say, okay, let me go be something to somebody.
Absolutely.
And volunteering and helping, I think that would be a big thing.
Yep.
And another thing that I think, talking about expectations, is the financial burden.
Oh, yeah.
Of Christmas. And that expectation, and your kids even having expectations and stuff. I think that's probably, don't you think that's probably one of the toughest?
It is.
On people?
You know, and especially, I think we've all probably been in that chair where it's like, oh gosh, I hope they didn't get me a gift, because then I'm going to have to get a gift. And then I'm going to, you know, and you get in that cycle. But yeah, it is that expectation, like you said, with kids, you know, and even kiddos at a younger age, they're going to see friends with things, you know, and they want the things. And I remember as a kiddo, this probably won't hit with a lot of people, but being able to get the JCPenney catalog, you know, the actual paper catalog where you could circle what you wanted, and that's where you make the big list. You know, but just knowing you weren't going to get all of it. It was going to be some of it. But I think it's harder now too, like you're talking about, like social media and the expectations. Everybody seems to have everything they want, but also checking that's not reality. You know, and I do appreciate now even some of those people coming out and say, okay, this is what you see. This is the reality. Because they've realized, you know, what that can do. But the financial burden, you know, for your mental health, for some folks, it creates such a dopamine rush to do the spending. And then about January, when the bills come in, you know, that's when we see an increase with depression and things too. So I also think I'm a firm believer in boundaries. I think those boundaries in place. And if you know, like your budget is stressed this year, start setting it up now. It's October. Set it up now and say, hey, I know we always usually get together and share gifts and do whatever. What if this year it's an experience? What if we go to the Myriad Gardens and do the Christmas lights? What if we do these things as a family unit and our gift to each other is our time? So, you know, if you need to set those boundaries up, take control and do that early. And that could also be a new tradition too. You know, if you're alone in your environment, like you said, volunteering. Like my new tradition is going to be serving Thanksgiving dinner. My new tradition will be being available and ringing the bell, you know, for the Salvation Army. Whatever that looks like, set up those things that you're comfortable with. So again, you can live by your value system and it supports your purpose, and you don't have that dreaded kind of after feeling after the holidays where you dread everything that has happened.
Right. For sure. So, can you think of any other suggestions to help people get through these tough times? Like, again, the biggest thing I think people go through that's probably one of the hardest is the loneliness. Even you can be around your family, and because that your matriarch's not there, like my mom passed away a year ago. And so last Christmas, I had COVID, so I couldn't go be with the rest of the family. My daughter did, but it was tough. So anyway, like I said, what would you say to somebody who walks in the store and they already go, oh my goodness, Christmas stuff already?
I think I just did that a couple of weeks ago. I haven't even bought all my pumpkins yet.
Right.
And their stockings. Yeah, so it is the loneliness, which of course we know can lead to us self-isolating sometimes and further depression. It's setting the stage for yourself. It's keeping your boundaries, keeping your routine. If you know you have a healthy routine right now, keep it.
Yeah.
You know, when people start pulling and other things start happening and pulling at you, checking yourself to keep that routine. Sleep hygiene. Oh my goodness. Because around the holidays too, we push ourselves. You know, we're going. We may be leaving work and going to 2 or 3 things. And then I need to drop a gift here. And then I need to, because of the expectation that we should, to show people we appreciate them. So when I say set the stage, I mean, maybe it looks different for you on how you celebrate people in your life, how you interact with people. How are you going to celebrate those people that aren't able to physically be there with you this year? Maybe it looks different. Maybe everybody takes a couple of minutes and goes around the table and says, hey, so give me the funniest story about grandma. You know, were her mashed potatoes just always not the creamiest, and that's okay. But just those funny things that the family knows, right? And if you're isolated, what can we do? Can we FaceTime? Can we Zoom? Can we do a 5-minute quick call and either schedule it with 1 or 2 people that you're celebrating with, or if the whole family can hop on? Because it seems also now too with work, people get transferred. They're moving all over the country, sometimes the world, time differences. And so just not having access to your people. And also culturally, honor your culture. If that's where you feel safe and that's where you feel pride, don't feel pulled by other people to honor your culture, set those values and say, this is what we do. I'll use, for example, this is what we do Christmas Eve. This is what we'll do Christmas Day if you celebrate those holidays, and keeping that true to you and what you want to do, and not feel pulled by social media to have all the candy canes and all the things.
And also learning that if your budget is tight,
boundaries.
Yeah.
Boundaries. It's okay to say, we just can't participate in that right now. No, I can't participate in that right now. Or if someone offers up an idea for something and in the back of your head, there's no way I can do that. If you don't feel comfortable saying that, offering up a second suggestion. Yeah. Hey, I'd be happy to go with you all, but what if we do this ahead of time and then, then we can do this later or something like that. Being comfortable to do that. Like I said, it's boundaries. It is all boundaries. And like I said, I can't speak enough to healthy sleep and a healthy sleep routine, because if you feel exhausted, we tend to make kind of loosey-goosey decisions.
Yes, I agree.
And the depression will seep in even more when we're exhausted.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes you more vulnerable to it. And,
absolutely.
I think it makes you a little more vulnerable to stress and the stress hormones, and you don't think correctly when you're stressed.
Absolutely. And then fueling your body.
Yeah.
If you're paying attention to what you're eating and drinking, continue to do that. Because we can kind of get talked into, once those cycles start, I'm not sleeping well, and now my anxiety is going up, and now I'm eating comfort food, and now I'm eating what I shouldn't, and now my brain is not functioning well. So it's just all a big cycle.
Your whole body doesn't function well when you don't eat, and I know, I always say it's about how often and, how much that you eat of those things that we should enjoy, but may not be the best for the body, but we enjoy them. They're good. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of how much and how often. And there's ways, you can set your boundaries.
Yep. I will enjoy a chicken fried steak with some yummy gravy, but I will not do it every day.
Right. Exactly. Well, so I'm tying this back to what All Thrive actually has to offer as far as what we offer. And this, again, is falling under our mental health. We do have spiritual health and not only the exercise, nutrition, the physical health, and then your environment, being comfortable in your environment. That's, I think, another thing that I think weighs on people, especially even during the holidays, is the environment. It's not all about, recycling. It's about your environment, where you live.
Absolutely.
Where you, even at your office, are you comfortable in your office? Just make it your space and make it where it's comfortable for you.
Absolutely.
I think is important. And so, anyway, Dedra, I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Taking time out of your day and coming over here and
Absolutely.
talking with us about this. I think it's just never addressed because, again, people don't like to talk about it, but yet they're silently suffering. And so I think that this is something that's going to really help people through these holidays.
Absolutely. And I really think, too, us getting past the thought that we just have to muscle through these feelings around the holiday, because it's an expectation that you should be anxious around the holidays because it's busy. I think recognizing it's okay to not be excited about them.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I like that statement.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming, and I think,
Thank you.
Guys, everybody, I think you'll really enjoy this.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to For the Health of It. For more wellness tips, information, and videos, visit the Thrive webpage. For questions, contact us at thrive@omes.ok.gov.